What was this? Dean Withers says he was about to watch the content nuke before Hasan barged his way into the TikTok live to prevent it from happening. Wait, what? No shot.
You want to know? You want to know what was crazy? Is there's 9,000 people in here. I'm gonna tell you all how we even got to the point.
Yeah, this is actually like an insane
I go live on here because I'm pissed off. And I just had the worst debate of my life with some random idiot on the main account. I got banned for bullying him. I absolutely bullied his ass. And then I come on here and I just start gossiping, right? I'm bringing up all of this TikTok drama. We're talking about the Bop House. We're talking about but then one of the topics that we get around to
I'm literally playing Fortnite on Twitch.
Is Hasan and H3. And I'm like, so I was reacting to this content nuke, right? And next thing I know, everybody thinks I hate Hasan and love Ethan. and then I see people in the chat and they're like, Hasan's in here. And I'm like, you guys are tripping. I checked the queue and then Hasan's at the top.
You can
bring him
up.
Crazy, bro.
Yeah, dude, we were literally, it was like 2.5K people, and Dean and I, like, Dean was talking about like Sophie Rain, the Bop House, and then we started talking about Bad Baby, and then we were like discussing in detail like the Daniel Larson lore, and then for like literally 30 seconds you start talking about the Hasan stuff, and then he's just like, here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You guys summoned him.
By the way, if I were to ever do anything like this, the amount of accusations of me being manipulative and all that shit. In Justical server, Kelly, somebody was mentioning that like, oh, it looks like Steven is getting women to fight over him again or whatever because he loves that. Because Kelly had been shitting on my girlfriend for weeks now. And my girlfriend finally said something back to her. And now Kelly's like, oh, he must be manipulating her. Like, Jesus. Every accusation is confession. Don't ever forget it. More reactions from the issue subreddit. Doesn't he constantly hit on liberals? Dean is clearly a subscribed liberal, and he's desperately trying to discredit criticism so he can be tolerated in liberal circles, catching them while they're young. He will go into detail about it with random kids on TikTok, but not on his stream. He's trying to explain his way out of the nuke before they watch. Dean said he'll finish it and call him out if he needs to. Doesn't he constantly hit on liberals? Dean is clearly a subscribed liberal. Yeah, Hasan's trying to lie. Hassan, the mask is really important for him to keep making like positive appearances on liberal platforms or whatever. Why are snarkers so dangerously gullible? I think that anytime you put a group of people together who are all like of one mind on something and they're there to kind of like circle jerk about it, the conversations will become progressively more unhinged because they have to, because there's like, you run out of material to talk about, so you have to keep exaggerating more and more and more and more and more and more and more. Yeah, until you're just like saying like wild stupid shit.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, bro. Thanks for popping
nice
in.
to meet you.
One moment. Hasan, it was a pleasure to finally meet you and speak to you in person. You know, I'm gonna finish that content nuke and I'll see if I have any critiques for you, and I'll let you know the next time.
We can go over it.
Oh, he jumps on. Oh, that's him. I just noticed. Dude, oh my God.
Yeah.
Go over it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Peace, guys.
All right, man. Peace.
Nice meeting you, man.
Peace, man.
See you, son.
Yeah, ciao.
Does he know how to leave?
Yo, dude, that was crazy.
Trying to be like, he said
That
he
was
got all the coins.
crazy
He said he got all the
work.
coins. I'm just saying.
Come on, Chris.
Part where I say even
Oh, I missed this top one.
they clip the part where I say even if sexual or they clip the part where I say even if sexual or rape doesn't change the dynamic for me about what's going on at all.
Oh, fuck. I wonder if... No, Hasan should have thought of this on his own. I wonder if Hasan watched me watch the content nuke, because I know how much he loves watching every fucking thing that I do. Because I think this was one of the few semi-criticisms I had where what Hasan is saying is that, like, even if a particular thing had happened, it wouldn't necessarily justify, like, a genocide afterwards. But then I think Ethan follows it up with another clip that made it even more okay that he included that. But I see Hasan as parroting this criticism now. Nice.
To make it seem like I'm saying, one, no rapes happen, and two, that I don't care if rapes happen. it's stuff like that. It's riddled with things like that, and claiming that I'm.
Oh, is that what he followed it up with? Oh, wait, yeah. Because I think when I was watching this, when I first heard Ethan bring that up, I was like, oh, come on, Ethan. Like, we know what he's talking about, right? But then there was that. Hold on, it was
brazen display of.
Do they have the word rape in this video, or do they have to edit it out?
Sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people.
Doesn't matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much. So that's the other part of this problem that many people that can't contend with. Like,
I can't believe how quickly leftists go from believe all women to Pixar didn't happen.
Wait.
The vast majority of people, if not all, who were raped were murdered on the spot, obviously.
Gam Goldstein Almog was kidnapped from her home on October 7th by Hamas terrorists and was held captive for 51 days. Though only 17 years old, she witnessed the murder of her father and sister.
I'm confused. Who's obsessed with who? Why does everyone say Destiny is obsessed? Hasan is obsessed with me. I cover Hasan because of stupid political stuff he says. Hasan obsessed over my personal life. The reason why you call people obsessed is because it makes it so that they don't cover you. Because when they cover you, you know that it makes you look bad. That's why people generally, unless they have like a good reason to, that's why people generally call people obsessed, is because it's an easy way to just like, oh, don't cover me, you're obsessed, boom. That's why Hasan always calls everybody like unwell when they start criticizing him, right? Log off, Ethan, like you're sick, man. Like log off, dude, you need to take a break.
Sister on that day, and is now speaking out about what she witnessed in Gaza as well in a new documentary by Sheryl Sandberg, Screams Before Silence. In new footage, Agam reveals that sexual assault and rape was a regular component of the life as a.
Oh, no, wait, he didn't do the no resistance is perfect line here.
Brazen display of disgusting terrorist propaganda that I have maybe ever seen in Western media.
what has happened to, does he know what has happened to any of the crews? Like, I heard they.
Hasan almost asked a good question, but it's actually leading to the most obscene part of this interview.
He's saying he hasn't spent much time with Chinese people, but one of the captain was Chinese, and he did plot with them. And
oh, no, wait, I just went to the wrong part. But anyway, regardless, sorry. This might be one of the weaker parts of the video to push back on, but.
I'm calling like all Jews inbred or whatever, and I'm talking about specifically the fucking terrorist group, like the JDL terrorist group destroying aid that was going into Gaza. And then I described the context of the situation where I'm like, this is like if our...
You comment and joke about his non-politics things too? Barely. Like, if I do, it's like 1 out of 100 things that I say about Hasan. If you want to compare me occasionally joking about... What do I joke about? I think his dog is the thing I do the most. Compared to the fact that every single time he refers to me, he calls me sex pestiny, he calls us Diddy GG, and he calls us divorce-elly. Like, it's not even remotely on the same level. You are delusional if you actually think that.
I look at the longer clip.
Oh, pushing 40? What am I, 2 years older than him, and he like constantly invokes my age? I think it's because he feels insecure about his own age or something, but...
From that same time frame, and it's like 30 seconds prior, I'm literally describing like, this is a right-wing settler terrorist group comprised of a bunch of inbred fucking psychos that are going in to destroy aid going into Gaza. And then he cuts that part to be like, oh, he's calling all Jewish people inbred. It's stuff like that for the most part.
Wait, somebody said they found the whole call. It's crazy how quickly Hasan joins. When was even the last time you made fun of his dog? I just make fun of the fact that the dog is clearly a purchased dog, but he tries to weasel out of it and say he adopted it from a breeder. Which isn't even really that big of a deal, but it's the LARPing is like an everyman. I just can't believe how much of a hyper-consumerist capitalist he lives. And is a socialist. That drives me crazy. Like, I'm pretty sure Hasan is more tanky than Vosh, and Vosh probably lives closer. If you want to compare lifestyles, Vosh would probably be closer to like the socialist aesthetic than Hasan would be, who is like the peak capitalist aesthetic. Hold on, let me use the restroom, and we'll watch this. 1 sec. He claims it's a rescue dog, not that he adopted it from a breeder. No, he claims that he got it off. He's very sneaky with his words. He says he got it off of somebody who's adopting them out on Craigslist or something, is what he says. But it's a breeder. You go to Craigslist to find breeder dogs and you buy. That's a very expensive breeder dog. It's a breeder dog. 1 sec.
Well, let's see when I see him. Then also another one, Hasan and H3.
Oh yeah, wait.
Yeah, that's insane. That I do know about.
I was gonna say.
I don't know much about that either. Actually, I'm not.
I don't know anything about that.
I know more than Parker.
All I know is that I reacted to the first 10 minutes of the content nuke on stream trying to be objective as possible. Objective as possible. And now like H3's fanboys think that I love Ethan, and Hasan's fanboys think that I hate Hasan.
Yeah.
But like
that's usually target.
But I was giving like so many disclaimers that like no, not at all. Like not at all. And you know, like I guess I will say I've learned so much from Hasan about like what it means to you know, be like a man on the left, if that makes any sense. And it's people like Hasan that really led me in the direction of you know, being on the left. And I think that he's used his platform to do a lot of good, especially for like younger white guys. A lot of good. But dude, I was watching like that content nuke. Holy fuck. He's definitely also done like a lot of bad things.
There's so much drama.
Oh, what the fuck?
What?
What the hell?
Oh my god, bro, there's no way.
No.
That's hilarious.
This is a joke, right?
No. Oh, what's going on, brother?
I literally scroll. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Bro, that's kind of crazy.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Hasan.
Just watching us like talk about like random drama.
Rolling on my TikTok For You page. I'm sitting here, laying down with Kaya, and right as I'm scrolling, I hear this motherfucker Dean being like, "Yo, I saw the content nuke. I watched the content."
Do you think, is that true? Do you think he's done more good than bad? That's a really hard, it's like a very macro question to try to answer. Like, would I prefer more people be on like the far left, like tankies, or would I prefer more people to be like MAGA? I mean, like in a way, all of this is, like all of these variables influence each other. So for instance, I would prefer more people to be on the far left than to be MAGA, insofar as it could take away votes for MAGA. And because the far left has no political power, so in that case, sure, load them up with people because they have no political power. But if they got enough political power, or if they were taking votes away from Democrats, or if they were taking oxygen away from left-leaning spaces, then I would say, well, that's probably not good. I'd rather people either just be MAGA or whatever. One of my biggest complaints, though, is just the idea that the media environment is so devolved now that nobody actually does any research or knows what they're talking about, or it's, you know, it's just a bunch of like misinformation. And Hasan does that just as much as any MAGA Trump person does. So I don't know. I have a hard time saying it's like more good than bad. I don't know if I would agree with that. Probably not.
Content nuke, and Hasan was my entry point into like, you know, doing content on the left. What's up, guys?
Yeah, what's going on, man? I was kind of like talking about how I think that you've done a lot of really good things for people on the left, but I watched like the start of that content nuke. I'm gonna be honest, like I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I saw like a lot of bad things in there, and I'm trying to be objective as possible.
I have to this day not watched the full nuke. I will admit, I only watched a couple pieces of it. Hold on, I'm cracking it in.
How could you even? God, he's so addicted to that nicotine. How can you even come on then to counteract what was being said if you haven't even watched it? What are you even gonna? How could you even say anything? I like how like. What an admission of bad faith that I'm going to come on here because there are two things that I want to counter. They're the talking points that I've memorized, but I haven't watched the whole thing. So if there is something up there in substance, I'm not going to be able to counter it or have the desire to counter it. Or like, okay.
I just watched a couple pieces of it this today on stream. And from what I saw, it was just the same shit that the sex pestity community has clipped out of context. Stuff like saying that I deny rapes on October 7, and it's literally like a 2-second clip. And it's literally me in the full.
They do. Oh, he's playing word games here. When he says, they say that I deny rapes, but I acknowledge that one person got raped. He denies the systematic rapes because of the Ryan Grimm, that story on The Intercept. And Steve's, whatever the guy's name is. And he had him on their stream. So he does deny the systematic rapes. He thinks that maybe one person might have been, I think, but I think that's as far as he goes. Maybe. We'll see if he says something different here. Also, wait, real quick. There's a way to change my hot bars down here from like 1 and 2 to like flip these to go up. What is the hotkey to do that? What do I push on my keyboard? X. Thank you. Okay.
Fuller context, actually arguing with a chatter who said, how can you claim that rapes could have happened on October 7? And I'm saying like, no, you know, sexual violence has a tendency to occur in moments like this. So
notice how he it's so funny. It's actually the exact same. These are Nazi talking points, right? So when somebody talks to a Nazi and they go, hello, the Holocaust, the Nazi doesn't defend the Holocaust. He says, well, these things happen in war. Like, lots of horrible things happen. And he's doing the same thing here. Instead of making a particular claim, it's like, well, in these circumstances, sexual violence, he doesn't even say rapes. Sexual violence just happens in war. That's just a thing that happens.
Like, no, sexual violence has a tendency to occur in moments like this. So, like, I'm not going to immediately dismiss claims of sexual violence happening on October 7. And they clip the part where I say, even if sexual violence did happen, that doesn't change the dynamic of genocide for me at all. I think it's...
Okay, so if Dean, now I'm not going to accuse Dean of being a Hasan simp, because actually I still don't know where he stands on Hasan right now. But what Dean should very easily and very quickly just ask is like, oh, okay, then clarify. Do you think systematic rapes did happen on October 7th, or what's your stance on that?
It's like completely inappropriate to say that it's, that genocide is permissible because sexual violence occurred. And they clip the part where I say, even if sexual or rape doesn't change the dynamic for me about what's going on at all, to make it seem like I'm saying, one, no rapes happen, and two, that I don't care if rapes happen. It's stuff like that. It's riddled with things like that. And claiming that I'm calling like all Jews inbred or whatever, and I'm talking about specifically the fucking terrorist group, like the JDL terrorist group destroying aid that was going into Gaza. And then I describe the context of the situation where I'm like, this is like, if I look at the longer clip from that same time frame, and it's like 30 seconds prior, I'm literally describing like, this is a right-wing settler terrorist group comprised of a bunch of inbred fucking psychos that are going in to destroy aid going into Gaza. And then he cuts that part to be like, oh, he's calling all Jewish people inbred. It's stuff like that.
Well, I think it's the thing. I think you call Zionists or Jewish people inbred like 20 different times, and it doesn't seem like you use that insult against anyone else, or at least I didn't see any examples of it, but...
For the most part. That's basic stuff. If you say anything even remotely pro-Palestinian, you're going to get attacked that way all the time on the internet. I'm sure you guys live stream.
They're on TikTok, bro. What are you talking about? TikTok was a bastion of pro-Palestinian content. God, he's such a these people that victimize themselves too. He lives in the biggest hug box in the world. This is Trump. This is literally Trump, where Trump goes on, he's like, yeah, I get unfavorable coverage from the media everywhere. Where, motherfucker? Everybody jerks you up. Even the left-wing media is nice to you. How can Hasan, who's like the #1 like pro-Pali defender, post about it all the time, everyone on the internet, all the Zoomer spaces love the Palestinian cause. Oh yeah, if you say anything pro-Palestinian on the internet, bro, you get fucking bashed like crazy for it. Really?
For the most part. That's basic stuff. If you say anything even remotely pro-Palestinian, you're going to get attacked that way all the time on the internet. I'm sure you guys live stream a lot, so I'm sure you're very familiar with the ways in which sometimes people clip you out of context. But the thing I took offense to, for the most part, was like the liberal Zionist Hasbara that took place, where he said...
The liberal Zionist Hasbara. Like, wait, hold on. So Hasbara or whatever, Hasbara is the name for the Israeli... foreign propaganda idea, basically. Like, Israel's like, we need to do good Hasbara for our country, okay? Is Ethan taking direction from the Israeli government? Is Ethan working to, do like good PR for the Israeli government? Like, why would you even say that about Ethan? Why would you use Hasbara in reference to anything Ethan is talking about?
Like the liberal Zionist Hasbara that took place, where he said a bunch of like incredibly ahistorical claims, like that were, I think...
Oh! Are we going to get one? Are we going to get an ahistorical claim? Hold on. Wait, also, how can you know he said a bunch of them? I thought you said you only watched a couple sections of the video. Now it sounds like you've watched a lot of the video.
Insensitive and also demonstrably untrue.
Like what?
Saying that 1 million Jews were displaced from the surrounding Arab regions, like expelled forcibly.
Oh my God. He watched me. He did watch me. Oh, he 1 million, because Hasan didn't know this point. Because this was the second criticism I had. You wouldn't technically, so after the war in 48, and then after the Suez Crisis in 56 or 58, and then after the first huge war in 67, the Six-Day War, and then I think after the Yom Kippur War, I think in 73 there were still Jews left. After every single one of these wars, Jews fled all the surrounding Arab states. But if you're being honest, they weren't all expelled. This was like a push-pull thing. There were Jews that were kind of pushed out because there was a little bit of pogroming happening. Pogroming. And the Arabs, I don't think any of them let them take their shit. But there were also pull factors. They were like, oh shit, Israel, that's dang. Let's go. Like, let's go to this place. Like, this is cool. So I don't think it's fair to say they were all expelled forcefully, but like, it was a massive flight of people. If they were Palestinians, you would just say that they were all expelled forcefully. There were push-pull factors here. But it's fair to say that, like, at the very least, they fled from all of the surrounding Arab states. But we're getting, like, very, very, very nuanced here in criticizing. Like, this is a hyper-nuanced criticism of Ethan's point that the vast majority of people, Hasan included, who are wholly uneducated on this topic, wouldn't even think to bring up or know anything about.
That 1 million Jews were displaced from the surrounding Arab regions, like expelled forcibly. And he called the Nakba like the War of Independence or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what he said. And,
because that's when it happened.
And no, the Nakba was, the forcible expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians.
Oh, Hasan, it's so hard to tell because Hasan is both incredibly bad faith and incredibly lazy and kind of stupid sometimes. The Nakba happened as a result of the War of Independence in 48. Like, now, you can get more into it in terms of like, well, why did it happen? Was it planned beforehand? There's like the whole planned Dalit stuff. Like, and you can argue back and forth there. But Hasan is very intentionally trying to frame this as just, for no reason, I guess, or just because they're racist, Israel expelled all of the poor Palestinians. In 47, the Arabs started a civil war against the Israelis. That the Israelis in the beginning, well, the Jews, I should say, because it wasn't Israel yet. The Jews were on like the back foot on in the very beginning of 47. And then in 48, Palestinians started to lose. Was it in June or May? In 48, all of the other Arab states join in, and it was the Israeli War of Independence. Yes. And then during this, the Nakba happens as well, where a whole bunch of Arabs also, I think you could argue there's push-pull. Some of them feel like their villages are getting shelled or they're going to be killed by Israelis. Others just want to retreat because fuck that. Others say that, I remember reading that there are like radio stations encouraging some people to flee. A lot of the Arab wealthy people, a lot of the Palestinian wealthy people had already fled. 10 years earlier, from 36 to 39 during the big Palestinian revolts against the British. So, I mean, to say that, like, fuck me. Why am I getting sucked into this? No one cares. Hasan doesn't care. It's funny to me that Hasan wants to be very nuanced about the 1 million Jews that were pushed from all of the Arab countries surrounding Israel. He wants to be very nuanced about that, but when it comes to the Nakba, there's no nuance there. It was just a forcible expulsion of 700,000 plus Palestinians for no reason. Like, it's very fucking annoying.
Said. And no, the Nakba was, the forcible expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians from their ancestral homelands from 1947 to 1949. And according to Israeli historian Ilan Pappé, this is very well documented. It was planned Dalit. It was a well documented ethnic cleansing operation.
No, that's just not true. That's a fucking lie. And Pappé probably shouldn't be the one that you would cite here over Benny Morris, who's done way more work digging through the actual documents. Pappé is like the worst of the four new, I think, historians, just in terms of how he's documented any kind of thing. But whatever.
So it's pretty basic information about the history of Palestine and Israel. So I didn't necessarily care about all the...
He's such a fucking liar, dude. God, it's so gross. He's anti-Semitic, too. Don't ever let him escape that.
All the other shit, him being like, he loves terrorism. Like, there's a moment where he talks about, like, Hamas and Hezbollah. And he makes it...
You literally say you're okay with Hezbollah, even though the U.S. has them on the terror watch list. Nelson Mandela and the ANC, they were on the terror watch list. And you say Nasrallah you like him too. What do you mean? How?
Seem as though these resistance groups just kind of exist in the ether. Like they just kind of existed historically.
Who says that? Ethan doesn't say that. Nobody says that. Every terrorist group, Al-Qaeda, everybody has a reason for why they exist. No terrorist group just comes out of nowhere, where it was like the fucking, like Saruman going to the earth and digging out material to build orcs or whatever. It's not like... or whatever the fuck those creatures were called. The Urukai? I can't believe I just remember that. Is that what they were called? The Urukai? It's fucking the limitless drug, okay?
Throughout the inception of the nation state of Israel, when both of these are different forms of Palestinian resistance that has evolved throughout time and increasingly become more violent, and violent in ways that I, of course,
increasingly become more violent? That's an insult to the current Palestinians. To say that all of the Palestinian resistance has become increasingly more violent, I would argue, like the PLO started off as a terrorist organization. That's inarguable. They have become substantially less violent. Hamas is violent, but to say that all Palestinian groups have become more violent over time, that is absolutely not true. The initial, the PFLP, the DFLP, the early PLO, these people like fucking hijacked airplanes and did terrorist attacks in other countries. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, which is the largest party, or it's not a party, I think it's a coalition of a ton of other Palestinian political parties, has become significantly more peaceful, I would say, I feel, since the I think Fatah is the largest party in the PLO, have become significantly less violent as time has gone on. This is such a, why am I even talking about this?
Disagree with as well, but it's anytime I talk about their tactics or anytime I offer context to how, like,
you don't ever offer context. You just offer excuses and justifications for the Palestinians and then only blanket condemnation for every single thing the Israelis do. There is no context. I hate how he rapes. He's a vocabularian rapist. Okay, that's what Hasan is. He rapes words. He takes these words like context and nuance and ahistorical, and then he abuses them to try to make it sound like he's making some intellectual point, and he's not. Every time he says this, he should just say, when I'm doing propaganda, that's it. It's just propaganda.
Even Hamas itself has evolved throughout history, starting as a Muslim Brotherhood cutout that was a Islamic charity initially, one that actually Israel supported as well. Specifically, was Hamas itself has evolved throughout history, starting as a Muslim Brotherhood cutout that was a Islamic charity initially.
I'm not gonna. It's just every single point, like, it's just so cringe. Whatever.
One that actually Israel supported as well, specifically to undermine the secular resistance groups like the PFLP, DFLP, the PLO in its entirety, because they thought that the Islamist fundamentalists would never garner any sort of positive Western support, making it seem as though these are just like groups that are entirely motivated by anti-Semitism and not developed through the process of 75 years of occupation, death, and destruction. It's all things like that I consider to be ahistoric. I mean, not that I consider it.
Yeah, the DFLP, the PFLP, the PLO, these all came after 75 years of occupation. Are you sure? Really? The PLO started in 2020? The DFLP, the PFLP, they started in 2020?
It's just ahistorical and completely devoid of nuance. And I think it serves the purpose of...
He just did it again, the vocabulary rapist. Stop using those words.
Defending Israel from a more progressive standpoint, it's not something I'm unfamiliar with. I've heard it a million times over. It's not like as egregious as being like, oh, I hope your beeper is, on notice or whatever. Like, I hope Israel kills you. It's not like that. But it's another way to, I guess, tackle the issue while consistently presenting Palestinians as like anti-Semitic terrorists across the board while saying you're pro-Palestinian.
Yeah, I'll say this. So I'm also pro-Palestinian. And
you're a Zoomer.
You are infinitely like more educated and invested in Israel and Palestine than I am. I'm more.
Just to be clear, you're one 30-minute YouTube video away from being more knowledgeable on the history of Israel-Palestine. Yeah, honest to God, it hurts to say this. It hurts to say this. It really does hurt me to say this because it's a pretty one-sided take as well. But if you watch Ben Shapiro's video on the history of Israel-Palestine, you will be more informed than listening to Hasan opine on this topic for dozens of hours. Unfortunately, that's how sad Hasan's historical takes are here. But
I understand the basics, and I just very vehemently disagree with ethnic cleansing, genocide, and unwarranted human death. That's as far as my stance goes.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm pro-Palestinian. But I will say, like, I've had conversations with Zionists and individuals that are pro-Israeli on live, and next thing you know, just because I don't necessarily support the existence of an ethno-state that wants to eradicate the existence of surrounding Arabs and Arab nations, all of a sudden I hate all Jewish people, or because I think that Zionism is bad because
that's not a fair take. even the most crazy Israelis don't want to eradicate all surrounding Arabs. The craziest ones would just want to like expand the territory of Israel. And those are like, that would be the super crazy ones, but okay.
It's founded, predicated on, colonialism and imperialism. All of a sudden it's anti-Semitic. So I understand
colonialism and imperialism. My dude, where do you think all these Arab states came from? Hello? Why is Hasan yapping so much? Why isn't there any back and forth? Hasan can't go back and forth because to go back and forth means that you have to have an understanding of the underlying material. Hasan does propaganda. That's all he does. So he can repeat his kind of like rehearsed speeches on things, but he can never go back and forth and explain shit because he doesn't have an underlying grasp of the material.
On, colonialism and imperialism, all of a sudden it's anti-Semitic. So I understand how, one could posture a pro-Palestinian view to be anti-Semitic to kind of just diminish the value and support of a human cause.
Yeah.
But I don't know the specifics and the intricacies at all. But I want to learn more, and I want to learn more about you. I do. I really do. I want to finish that content, Nuke. I want to get your takes. From you said you reacted to it on stream. I'll probably do that.
No, I to be fair, I didn't react to the thing in its entirety.
He did say he basically knew nothing about it. No. I'm saying Hasan could never go back and forth, not Dean. Dean himself might or he said it, right? They did legitimate doesn't know much about it. It's fine. I wouldn't expect Dean to have a huge background on this. Hasan is the one that says he's known about this topic for over a decade when a few years ago he was doing a map game and he didn't know the difference between Turkey and India. But
and I might in the future, because I was thinking about maybe
the only ethno-state with multiple ethnicities living side by side. No. Sorry, hold on. Sorry. Kaiwi EG, or Kawaii, I'm sorry, Kawaii EG in Kick Chat just said an incredibly fucking stupid thing. You said ethno-state, but you thought that ethno-state meant one ethnicity. Racists always have their own unique definition for ethnicity. That's always the case. So when you're looking at somebody like Hasan, and so Hasan talks about Israel being an ethno-state, Hasan would say, Syrians, Jordanians, and Palestinians are all wildly separate and different ethnicities. These are totally different people. But if you look at, Mizrahi Jews, I'm trying not to do the religious names, but the ethnic ones. Is it the Mizrahi and the, is Sephardic the religion or the ethnicity? I mix these up sometimes. And then like Ashkenazi Jews, when you have these people together, no, that's all one ethnicity. Those are all just Jews, right? Racists always have their own unique definition for what an ethnicity is, and they will always use it to their advantage. That's why neo-Nazis in America will say, I just want one ethnic group here, European white people. That's one ethnic group? What? And then I don't want any of that ethnic group, the black person. All black people are the same ethnic group? What? Every racist has their own definition for ethnicity, and Hasan is no different here. Don't forget the Dothraki Jews. I'm pretty sure all the Dothraki Jews died when Liam al-Gaib sent them into the dark for no reason to go and die to the White Walkers.
Bringing in some historians to also talk about it regardless, because like at the end of
Hasan never means historians. He just means pop historians or other Arabs or Muslims who will always parrot the pro-Pali historical perspective.
And I might in the future, because I was thinking about maybe bringing in some historians to also talk about it regardless, because like at the end of the day, it is it's important to address a lot of the false claims being made, not necessarily about me being like pro-terror or whatever. That I hear that all the fucking time. That doesn't mean anything. Congressman Richie Torres wrote a letter to Twitch back in the day, like I think a week before his election. He was on the ballot demanding that I get banned because I was like the arch pro-terrorist supporter. Richie Torres, of course, is a massive Israel advocate from one of the poorest districts in the country, and spends most of his time talking about Israel instead of his own constituents. But I get attacked by the ADL and stuff like that. All that stuff is ultimately meaningless. But I do care about the history of it, and I want to make sure that people are not misinformed about how things have taken place, because I think that's what matters. The truth matters more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I can obviously respect the prerogative of valuing truth over all else. And I hold the same perspective. And I'm sure that there's maybe like a handful of people watching that are like, "Oh my God, Dean, you're sucking up to Hasan, and you're not."
You guys are the arch debate lords. You can take me to task on this issue if you want.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of your content.
I'll call you out, okay? And I mean that. I will.
Yeah.
I will. I see some fuck shit, I'll do it.
Let me tell you guys something, by the way. As someone who was also debated and still every now and then engages in debate, I will say, as a content creator who's been doing this for a very long time, I love what you guys are doing. I will urge you to, consistently end up debating and stuff, but like, I warn against the toxicity that might create for you. And it's good to diversify. It's good to diversify your content in general, and like do React content, more fun stuff, things of that nature, more educational content. Because
it's so cringe. He's so threatened by debate becoming like a popular thing again because he knows that he can't argue any of his ideas because he's actually completely totally uneducated on anything. So even he's trying to like grab like the children and be like, guys, whatever you do, please, God, like you gotta just React content, guys. I saved every single season of 90 Day Fiance. Can you guys just like watch this shit? Like, please, guys. Like it's actually so fucking cringe and it's so transparent. Holy shit.
There are a lot of people who enjoy the blood sport of it all, but they don't necessarily care about the truth. They just want to see dunks.
Mm-hmm.
And
sorry, Hasan, my bad. I don't mean to interrupt you, bro. Dean Harry's in the box.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead and continue.
My bad.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is like, as someone who did a lot of debate initially, I think that I noticed at least like there's a point where it turns into you basically cultivate a community. I warn against this. You basically cultivate a community of people that just like want slam dunks, and it does become a little toxic in my experience. Maybe you guys are avoiding that. I don't know how it works on TikTok in general, but I would definitely diversify my content if I were in your shoes.
Well, I agree with you, and I can even expand on that. So apart from the cultivation of this niche that becomes toxic at a point because pro slam dunks, I even like find myself falling into that sometimes. Sometimes somebody will just be pissing me off so much that I'm no longer focused on trying to inform and educate, and I'd just rather slam dunk their ass because they're really upsetting me. But then also kind of like toxicity that it can cultivate outside of like a toxic content creation environment and consumption environment is dude, it does a lot to your mental well-being to just debate people for 4 hours a day. So I'm starting to expand outwards, and hopefully I'll soon be able to get to a point where I'm doing other content apart from debates. It's actually funny because you and the way you do your content, kind of like doing debates with some reactionary content and other related forms of political information and education-esque content actually came up in a conversation I was having with somebody that's kind of been helping me. They're like, well, look at Hasan, he's doing it perfect. He does debates and reactionary content, and that seems like a much better way to live your life.
Well, for me, like I have an ideological purpose, and it's not something that I hide. I've even openly admitted to.
This is where he uses a very watered down version of like, I do propaganda, but when I say propaganda, I mean I do propaganda for good.
I call myself a propagandist on Piers Morgan show, which everyone always points to. What do you mean you're a propagandist? Like I don't like, I use propaganda in the old terminology for it. I had a show on the Young Turks back in the day called agitative propaganda as well, where my goal is to try to instill class consciousness in the American working class, because I feel like that is what's most lacking from our political discourse in general. So like I have an ideological goal. I want Americans to recognize that it's not your neighbors that are fucking you over. It's not undocumented migrants. It's not trans people. It's not DEI. And these things are simply purposeful distractions that reactionary forces utilize while they fucking rob you blind with austerity and an overall refusal to improve your material conditions, whether that is the Republican.
I love how he like copy pastes so much from like Soviet tier propaganda. Like, I'm sorry, when the fuck has the United States in our lifetime done austerity? What the fuck? That's not even an American word. I don't even think the average American, I don't even know if the average political American knows what austerity means. Austerity, by the way, is a much more commonly term used in European politics, where you're talking about tightening the government budget and potentially raising taxes in order to be very careful about your fiscal policy, basically how much money you're spending, how much money you're borrowing. I don't even think the term austerity exists in the United States. We don't even say that. We just say like eliminating the debt. We say that, but nobody does it. Oh God.
Party in many circumstances, or even in other instances.
Do they say it in Canada? Oh, maybe they say it in Canada. Yeah. In the United States, we do not use that word. I don't know if anybody's ever used that word in political speech like the past 3 decades.
Democratic Party that refuses to push the needle in the direction of necessary change. So for that purpose, I'm saying I realized that simply doing debates alone was not cutting it, because I wanted people to, I wanted to create a community that was engaged, listening, learning, and also seeking out information on their own. But more importantly, that they were also engaging in activism, organizing, whether that be community organizing or labor organizing.
Austerity is super common in the U.S. Indeed, comrade.
And I mean, I have a lot of obviously local officials in my chat at any given moment, or even people that apparently work at the DNC, which was shocking to me when I went there. But and of course, many labor union organizers and activists in general. So that's what I mean when I say debates. Debates are great for content. It's good for slam dunks. It has an educational value for sure. You get to understand the opposition's position. You get to teach people what the talking points are, what their talking points are, and how to effectively counter them. And I think the takeaway for many in your audience will be how to effectively dismantle those propaganda points and the arguments that your grandparents or your parents might be making or your coworkers are making. But beyond that, I think in order for people to unlock their true potential and be able to bring about real progressive change and create systems of pressure, like mechanisms of pushback, sometimes pushback that's even warranted towards the Democratic Party, I think that there's more to do. And it'll create a more sustainable career for you as well, in general, for all of you guys.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, at least when it comes to my approach, like I agree, like the left as a whole, or like progressives, and like in general, need a multifaceted approach in terms of like the different content people like go towards. And I also think that like for certain creators, there's going to be certain skill sets that you're going to have where you're going to be able to do a certain set of content very consistently, a lot more if you're interested in it, if you like doing it, and if you can bring the energy every single time. And as it relates to like things like debates, I think that like people like me and Dean, we have a lot more of a pressure and push internally to engage in that particular type of activism and work comparative to other forms, because it comes more naturally to us, or it's some like way we can explain things a little bit more in depth.
Here's your Mossad grant for the month. Have these literal shekels. In all seriousness, understanding the intricacies of ethno-state means to racists like Hasan. Love from Jerusalem, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Mazel tov. That's it.
Depth. And one thing I have an issue with in terms of content that's like, reaction based or other stuff like that is that there's no.
How the fuck does Hasan get to play lib when he's on with Dean in Pod Save America, but he can go on stream the next day and talk about why we need authoritarian socialism? Because not everybody's going to go through every fucking stream thing to see like what's going on with you or whatever. Like most people just won't know. If he presents himself as a moderate lib, then most people kind of see him that way, or like a far left lib, basically. Even in that, was it Slate or who did the profile recently? They had him as like the strongest liberal or whatever, and they had to change the title, I guess. I don't know if Hasan made them change it or people pointed out, this guy's like a socialist. He's not a liberal at all, right?
Pressure and push internally to engage in that particular type of activism and work comparative to other forms, because it comes more naturally to us, or it's some like way we can explain things a little bit more in depth. And one thing I have an issue with in terms of content that's like, reaction based or other stuff like that is that there's no back and forth direct sort of response from.
Who is this guy? Matt? Base. There's no back and forth response. And so the issue is you don't get to hear the person being challenged. So the opportunity for them to respond to what I call level one arguments, so the really basic responses to what they're saying, you don't get to hear them flesh out their responses to those questions. And then two, it's really hard to know how much the person even understands about the topic when you can't see them engage in a dynamic manner, like having a back and forth to make sure they've fully integrated the ideas and everything. Yeah. That's Parker? Okay.
People. So I think that oftentimes it can create more echo chambers, like naturally.
Why does this thing say Matt down here then? Is his name Matt Parker?
Like when you engage in like reaction-based content. So I actually think myself that like, of course, there's going to be people who are just trying to look for slam dunks in terms of debate type content that's live debates. But I mean, I think that would be true for.
Also, that's such a stupid criticism of debate. Some people look for slam dunks. Therefore, all debate is bad. Okay, so then does that mean that all video essays are bad because some video essayists suck? Or all React content is bad because some reactors suck? Or that all propaganda is bad because some propaganda is like composed of only lie? Like it's just such a stupid point to bring out. It's not even a logically consistent point, ignoring the underlying claims.
For short form content, reaction based content, or any other form of content that would exist on social media, and I think actually is alleviated more when we engage in live debates, because it's like more.
You should have a hard talk with Dean next time y'all meet, because apparently y'all have a direct line with anyone Hasan talks to. I messaged Dean, but again, remember, it's very, 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 very hard to talk to me, because as soon as you talk to me, there's going to be a ton of people trying to dox you, a ton of people putting a lot of pressure on you, a ton of people that will target people in your community or around you. There's like a whole ecosystem of like fuck over anybody in Destiny's vicinity. So it's a lot of stuff to deal with.
Social media, and I think actually is alleviated more when we engage in live debates, because it's like more in person, real. You can humanize people more because you're engaging in direct conversation. That's
Hasan is gonna prediction. Hasan is going to ignore all of that, or he's going to say like, yeah, that's true. And then he's going to say, but most debate lords don't care about any of that, and they're just looking for slam dunks, and then all the cope past that.
At least how I view it. But like, I think that, yeah, we should engage in other conversations.
Yeah,
you're
yeah, right? Agree with them.
I think
agree with them. It can be good in its best form, and then go back to saying how most of it is trash, and most people are just looking for dunks. You got it. Come on.
there's definitely a space for debating for sure.
But
I'm not discounting that at all.
But
I'm just saying that it's good to diversify your content as well. On top of that, for sustainability in general,
different,
and also on top of that, to create a broader community that has more interest.
When discussing 2020 recovery versus 2008 recovery, austerity is a super common word used to describe the difference between those recoveries. Rohab, I just don't know what to say to you. That's just not true. In the United States, austerity is just not a political word that we use here. Maybe in some academic papers, they might have described one as engaging in austerity and the other as not. Although I don't even know if that's true. After 2007, did we engage in austerity with the big bank bailout and the car dealership bailout and everything else? Is that true? Or not dealership, but manufacturer?
Because debates do sometimes have a tendency to just narrow your focus a little too much. That's all I'm saying. But
I agree with that.
You guys are doing great. Don't get me wrong. You guys are killing it.
Yeah. I guess the way I look at it is, the only reason I now have this career where I do debates for 4 hours a day was because 2.5 years ago I decided to load up TikTok at 3 a.m. and join some random person's live and try to convince them that they were wrong and I was right.
Is there a way to fix the doxing and going after people around you, like counter-doxing? I don't know. No, it's literally impossible. The problem is that they do it in safe spaces where they can't get in trouble for it. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I used to do heavy drama content, so I've attracted the types of people that are into that type of content, so there's type of people that speculate. I'm talking about this less and less, and I have to just completely stop talking about it because it doesn't serve me at all. Except I guess to kind of bring awareness to it so that people can understand. I don't think I'll post the messages, but for instance, for months, people in Justicle's server have just been nonstop talking about me and obsessing about me. And I know that when I say that, it just sounds like I'm exaggerating. I don't even know if it's not worth posting, but bro, if you get sneak an account into one of these servers and just watch, and they will just talk about me, my life, just make the most wild and random claims constantly. It's just every single day. It's hours and hours and hours. And then if you're anybody that's in my peripheral, then they start to talk about you, and then they say that they aren't targeting you, but they'll have conversations that they know that other people are looking at that will use those conversations to go after other people. Kelly does this a lot too. Yeah. It's just it's very, very, very unhinged. Maybe they do these, or maybe other streamers have these similar types of things, but I feel like it's probably because I did so much of a variety of content in the past that I attracted a type of viewer that is more likely to engage in that behavior in the past. That'd be my guess. And then they're just kind of holdovers from that. You see Darius go over Jew Stalker's Chatter's Twitter. He talked about you 100 times on Twitter in a 12-hour window. Nice.
And then it just kind of snowballed into what it is now. And kind of like what Parker said, I think that if we want to build this literal fucking machine to get as many people as possible to be more and more progressive, right, and less bigoted, less on the right, further to the left, it requires a very multifaceted approach with a functioning ecosystem of different people that are doing different things. And when I've had people come up on my live before and been like, "Oh, Dean, you suck. You're just a rage baiter. You do reactionary content that does no good." I guess on one hand, it's I should do more for.
You're just describing H3 Snark, no? Yeah, I guess the Snarkers are similar, but maybe that's because Ethan, because he does a variety of content, he attracts those types of people as well, possibly.
Interests to society as well as self-interests. But then on the other hand, it's I'm good.
You engage with them directly a lot, no? Yeah, in the past, yeah, for sure. It was a huge part of the content we did on stream, yeah.
At this, I'm going to focus on what I'm good at. And there's other individuals.
Jessica was downplaying the doxing/swatting that KF does today. Yeah, that's because as of this point right now, I don't want to talk about this much because I hate giving these people attention. But as of this point right now, there are a lot of people in Gisticle's Discord server, but they're not just in his server. They also have a bunch of other groups that they chat in who post on Kiwi Farms or pass information to people on Kiwi Farms, or just are constantly quoting from Kiwi Farms to bring information from there into the server and then to propagate it out to other servers and then have other people talk about it as well. It's actually unhinged, but yeah. Do you do call-ins at the moment? Not now. I'll probably start doing them again. Hopefully March 1st. Things are more kind of back to normal, basically.
individuals that will focus on what they're good at. But, hopefully, I mean, if this turns into something long term, I'll be good at multiple things,
Yeah. Look, I'm dog shit at gaming. I'm dog shit at gaming. I still play video games on stream because I know that it brings in a different audience as well. In my line of work, I've realized, especially the position that I'm advocating for, is one that either Americans, especially, are either completely oblivious to and have never heard of it, or are inherently antagonistic to. So charitability is the most important thing. And I think collaborations and people seeing me in a different light and not just simply clips, because that's just the most common way that people learn about other content creators, is the best way forward. But that's just for me. I'm not saying it's for all of you guys as well. Bro. I'm just sharing what I've seen through my experience.
Yeah, of course, man. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Does anybody else want to hop in here?
Yeah, who wants to debate me? Harry, you go.
Harry, go ahead. Hasan, one time on stream. Well, you reference Harry as the DNC shill, and then you reference me as the car guy. So at least Harry gets a name.
Hasan, do you still think I'm a shill?
I don't know. I haven't seen any of your new stuff, so I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you'd see Harry as a shill. Yeah.
Let me ask you. No. This is important. What do you think about Hakeem Jeffries' performance so far?
You mean as the minority leader just generally the past couple of years, or since Trump has gotten into office?
Since Trump, since Trump's coming.
Pretty mediocre. Mediocre.
All right. That's good.
I mean, it's been too weak. I don't like how he's not criticized Eric Adams.
Yeah.
I think that's fucking insane. I know he's taking the position of we have to wait and see if the charges are dismissed. I think.
Hold on, wait. I'm so sorry. I need to pay
what I've seen through my experience.
Yeah, of course, man. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Does anybody else want to hop in here?
Yeah, who wants to debate me? Harry, you go.
Harry, go ahead. Hasan, one time on stream. Well, you referenced.
Kelly was 100% right to warn Destiny about Gistical. He was absolutely ready to shit on Destiny after the AEG stalker shit. He was just biding his time. Sure, but Kelly's also the same way. She's incredibly opportunistic.
Harry is the DNC shill, and then you reference me as the car guy. So at least Harry gets a name.
Hasan, do you still think I'm a shill?
I don't know. I haven't seen any of your new stuff, so I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you'd see Harry as a shill. Yeah.
Let me ask you. No. This is important. What do you think about Hakeem Jeffries' performance so far?
Oh.
You mean as the minority leader just generally the past couple of years, or since Trump has gotten into office?
Since Trump, since Trump's coming.
Pretty mediocre. Mediocre.
All right. That's good.
I mean, it's been too weak. I don't like how he's not criticized Eric Adams.
Yeah.
I think that's fucking insane. I know he's taking.
Wait, is that true? Has Hakeem Jeffries not criticized Eric Adams? I don't keep up with the history of all of that as much, so that could be true. Hakeem Jeffries, Eric Adams. Jeffries says Eric Adams should not resign. That was 4 months ago.
On the Mayor Adams front first, do you think he should resign?
No. My view is that Mayor Adams, like every other New Yorker and every other American, is entitled to the presumption of innocence and entitled to a trial by a jury of his peers who will ultimately determine his fate within the legal system. At the same time, it's important for Mayor Adams to articulate to New Yorkers in a compelling way a plan and a path forward to ensure that the city is continuing to function and run in a manner that meets the needs of everyday New Yorkers and in a manner that New York City, which we believe is the greatest city in the world, deserves.
If Eric Adams would have stepped down, what does the process look like for a new mayor coming into place? Would it be a special election, or?
The position of we have to wait and see if the charges are dismissed. I think that's bullshit. I don't think he's been hard enough on Trump. I really don't like how Jerry Connolly is leading the Judiciary Committee and not AOC. I think we've been making some very simple mistakes. So
yeah, okay, that's good. That's
helpful. It is possible to be nuanced. The moderate Democrats are too moderate, and the progressive Democrats are too progressive, and you could just be somewhere in the middle.
I have a question too.
What's up?
Okay, and this is because I feel like I've been getting more radical in my views on this topic. But the main critique that I've seen from your supporters, and I think even you called me way too lived out for this when you were reacting to my Jubilee episode.
I think it was the immigration stuff, maybe.
Immigration policy. Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. So, in accordance with the stance that I either shared on the Jubilee episode, or I could just kind of reiterate my thoughts on immigration now. I'd love for you to tell me why I'm wrong.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, first immigrate. I guess, okay, we'll start with border policy. So border policy, what I want in my best version of the world is as many ports of entry that operate as efficiently and as quickly.
Wait. That was a fair answer from Hakeem. He can't just assume guilt and denounce him as the position Hakeem is in. Yes. However, I don't want to generalize these guys, the younger people here, because I don't know their positions. But one of the problems, and you have to remember this, is people on... Oh, fuck. It's so annoying. People on the far left don't really want political power. They want to just be able to... I guess I'm kind of borrowing a lot from that ContraPoints quote. They just want to critique power. That's it. So all of their criticisms are aimed towards critiquing power and making other people critique power. They don't really understand or care about maybe politics. So politics can be complicated. You have public positions, you've got private positions, you've got things you push for privately while you speak about them slightly differently publicly. So you're correct in that, like, Hakeem Jeffries can't just start shitting on Eric Adams, the Democrat mayor of New York City. For obvious reasons, that would be bad. Now, behind the scenes, he could work to do something with him, whether that means working on him to step down or whatever, but it would be silly to cause that much division in the party. That's true. But people on the far left are never going to think about the politics part of it. They just want to critique power and shit on them for whatever reason. Because remember, they don't even want their own people to be politically effective. Remember that whole call the vote or force the vote movement where they were like, AOC and everyone else needs to force people to vote on Medicare for all. That way, when the American people see who votes no, they'll vote all of them out. That was a delusional fuck plan that was always fucking stupid. But they just wanted to do it so they could critique power and have a list of names of people to shit on. They didn't. That wasn't going anywhere policy-wise. If anything, it would have hurt it. Like, yeah.
As possible with screening processes that specifically expel and do not allow people into the country that have committed violent crimes.
Why is he not shitting on Adams after he completely went Team Trump for a pardon? I don't know what he said recently about Adams. That clip was 4 months ago, though.
Then allow people into the country that have committed violent crimes. And then for undocumented migrants that are already in America, for undocumented migrants that have committed violent crimes, to deport them. And for undocumented migrants that have not committed violent crimes, to offer them a pathway to residency or citizenship.
Sorry to cut you off. You don't... Oh, okay. So you don't want to deport undocumented migrants that haven't committed crimes, but undocumented migrants that have committed crimes, you want to deport them.
Specifically violent crimes, yeah.
No, specifically
W. Dean.
Okay. So I don't disagree with anything that you just said at all. I don't think we're in disagreement in terms of... Well, I guess the only thing that I would disagree with is if an undocumented migrant has caused a violent crime, I would want the American court system to handle it and actually imprison that person rather than allowing them to be free. Like, I don't want rapists to get a trip back home. You know what I mean? And then just be like, all right.
You know what? That's a good point. You know, if so if we would do like the deportation of undocumented migrants that have committed violent crimes, it'd be conditional given where they're deported would be where they land in a jail cell.
Or like, I mean, or I would rather house them in the American carceral structure to ensure that they are actually serving, like to ensure that they're just served. Here's a good debate tactic.
That's actually a great argument. That's a great point.
Ask Republicans.
So, is this a great argument? The issue then is that you have to be careful about the system of incentives you create. If there's an undocumented immigrant here, and they know they're going to be kicked out, or they could be kicked out, couldn't they just commit a violent crime and then they're guaranteed to stay in the U.S. for however long their prison sentence is at least? And also, do we want to pay money to be housing those people for a long time? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's okay to just deport them. Fuck them. Yeah.
Every time they say, "Oh, I want undocumented migrants that have caused crimes to be deported," ask them, why do you want rapists to roam free if they fucking did a rape? Why do you not?
Because they'd rather a rapist be dealt with by another country, even if that means they roam free, rather than us paying money to house them. No.
Let's say an undocumented migrant is like done a heinous
cooking with that one. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, why have I never thought of that? What the?
Because you don't understand anything about the legal system. So now you have an undocumented person taking up, high five figure a year pay. They're not getting paid that, but we have to pay that money to house them here. And then on top of that, if they're going to be treated as American prisoners, they should be afforded all the rights of an American prisoner. So they get however many appeals, they get assigned however many public defenders, they get to clog up however many courts. No. Why would you want to spend all this money for what is the principle that we're appealing to here? Just because we don't want them to go free in another country? I don't think that's a compelling enough reason. Maybe we could say for exceptional crimes, so like for forcible rape and for maybe for murder, maybe sure. But otherwise, I don't know, man. That just I don't think it's a strong enough argument to clog up our system that much. Nah.
I haven't thought about that either.
You don't want punishment. You don't want crimes to be punished. That's weird. So
is that what jail is supposed to be for? Is just punishment? Like
that's a nice little debate tactic there. But it is something that I also believe. I want amnesty for all undocumented immigrants that are living on U.S. soil right now, as long as they have not committed like any sort of heinous violent crime. But even when we entertain the notion that like we're deporting violent criminals or the Trump administration is like going after violent criminals, I think you guys all know that that's not the case.
No.
It's not like the previous administration was like, oh, are you Guatemalan and you did a rape? Okay, sorry, we can't arrest you. Like, that's so fucking stupid. Like, no, of course, being arrested and being prosecuted, right? So that notion is like that premise that they operate off of is like a faulty hidden premise. The idea that like the Biden administration was not adequately targeting people that have done crimes, regardless of their immigration status, and that's precisely the reason why I believe it was the Associated Press that came out with initial reporting that the majority of the undocumented migrants that have been deported so far, some of which aren't even undocumented, by the way. They are deporting documented non-citizens and undocumented non-citizens, and the majority of them had not committed any crimes, and a big chunk of those who had actually done crimes had done shit like trespassing, you know what I mean? Or obstructing justice, like ridiculous, erroneous claims that normally would be thrown out under any other circumstance. And
I was under.
So it's Hasan's position is don't deport anyone. I think so, but his position is going to be really weird because I don't know how Marxists or whatever feel about immigration, or it's going to be some weird progressive crossover. The real reality is what we need to do is you need to lock people in a room. We should have like a debate holocaust. All the people that have strong opinions on this shit should be locked into fucking rooms where they are forced to debate their honest positions. In my opinion, the biggest problem with a lot of conversations, but especially with immigration, but with a lot of conversations, nobody's honest about what they feel or honest about what they believe. If somebody were to come out and say, I disagree with the path to amnesty because they've broken the law and they should go back and come back legally. Oh, okay, you believe that. Do you think we should make it a lot easier for people to immigrate here legally? No, I think the laws we have in place are good. There might even be too many. Okay, wait, okay. Can we just eject all the bullshit? Can you just tell me honestly, you want less immigrants here, or at least I'll be polite and say low-skill immigrants and not just brown immigrants. You just want less low-skill immigrants here, period, right? Let's start the conversation from there. Instead of having to chew through so much bullshit about what's the right number, like should we make immigration easier or harder, what kind of immigrant, like let's start on our honest actual fucking positions instead of having to work back through so much bullshit. Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Under the impression that majority of individuals that they deported so far were individuals that have been documented as committing a crime or violent crime. But the reason why that's the case is not because they wanted to only or...
How can you completely throw out the legitimate concern of cultural assimilation? When did I do that? Hello? If anything, I would be addressing it more than the people that lie about it. Let's just have that conversation. Because by the way, I think that's even a legitimate conversation to have. I think that's a fine conversation to have. If 300 million people who were authoritarian, fascist, or Sharia law believing, whatever, wanted to come to America, 300 million of them wanted to come here instantly, that would be a legitimate conversation to have about like, well, hold on. How do we feel about their assimilation to an American value system? How do we feel about their ability to uphold what we consider to be American values? What even are American values? Those would be good conversations to have. But don't pretend like what you actually care about is just deporting criminals or whatever other bullshit, because clearly there's something more beneath the surface here than just that desire. Let's have the cultural assimilation conversation. And I do agree, by the way, I think the largest threat to the United States culture today are immigrants. For instance, Elon Musk is an African immigrant who is destroying this country's ability to adhere to the Constitution of the United States, which I think is one of the most important principles of this country. So, maybe they were right when they talked about those people coming from Africa. Who knows?
Crime or violent crime. But the reason why that's the case is not because they wanted to only or focus on the deportation of undocumented migrants who have committed crimes, but rather those were just the easiest undocumented migrants.
Oh, are you talking about Yeah, the ones that are in the prison system already. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and like the misconstruction from Trump supporters, creating a narrative that because for the first week, 800 out of 1,000 deportations were from individuals that were already in the prison system. You know what I mean?
They deported people that were already in the prison system, and that's why they like Tom Homan is talking about setting up a facility inside of Rikers in New York because they want to just like quickly, expeditiously deport any undocumented migrant that's done a crime. I still think it's ridiculous to do that. I think it's better to serve justice rather than just like give people a free trip back home.
Just my opinion, but if an immigrant from a failed /adversarial state kills / assaults a U.S. citizen, they should face justice within the U.S. system. I mean, like, let's say that was the case then. So here's my next question. Okay, fine. Somebody attacks a U.S. citizen. We're not shipping him back to Mexico. We're keeping that Mexican right here in our own prison system. He goes to prison. He serves a 6-year sentence, and then he comes out. Then what do you do with him? Now you have a convict, a felon. Does he get to stay in America? Or do you deport him after? Are we going to spend the money to house them in a prison, and then after we've wasted the money to house them in a prison, then we give them a free trip home afterwards? Or are you going to keep somebody in this country that committed a violent crime while being an illegal immigrant as well? Like, meh. I just kick him out. Fuck it. Unless it's like a huge, like a capital offense, maybe. Like we can say like class A or class 1 misdemeanor things or felons or whatever.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah, where they're free. I totally agree with that. Yeah, you're totally right when it comes to that. So it's totally, yeah, they would have to justify that the deportations wouldn't have freed people right into other places around the world because seemingly they would care about those places. Yeah. I mean, they would probably say some crazy shit like they don't give a fuck in most circumstances if you had someone who's maximum alive.
Yeah, Republicans are insane. But the other secondary problem with the deportation of criminals is mass destabilization. In the country that you're sending them back to, especially if you look at
mass destabilization. I'm sorry. Do we have like 1 million illegal immigrant murderers that we're shipping back? What the fuck?
MS-13. If you look at the history of El Salvador, MS-13 is an American-born, is an El Salvadoran gang that was born out of undocumented migrants from El Salvador having to resort to gang violence and criminal activity in an effort to make ends meet. And then they got in.
Fuck, is that true? I hate letting him make claims that I'm not researched on because I feel like he lies about almost everything. So I don't even know if, I just don't like letting really bad claims like that stand. All right, not to say that claim might not be a bad one, I just don't know. And I get nervous when they originated in Los Angeles, California. Okay, they did come in the United States, or they originated in the US. They were set up to protect Salvadoran immigrants from other gangs in the LA area. Over time, the gang grew into a more traditional criminal organization. MS-13 is a longtime rival with the 18th Street Gang. Why would you name yourself the 18th Street Gang? And everybody knows where to find you. Just kidding. Has there ever been like a history or a gang that's named themselves like an 18th Street Gang, and then the city does like a project to rename their blocks, and they like now they live on like 20th Street? God damn. In 2018, the gang's U.S. membership of up to 10,000 accounted for less than 1% of the 1.4 million gang members in the United States. Does that include Gucci Gang? What the fuck? We have that many gang members in the U.S.? Bro! I wonder how loose, like, gang is allowed to be used there. I guess if gangs exist in major cities, actually, and major cities have all the population, I guess it's possible. Damn, that's a lot of people. If your goal would ever make people think far-right fascism was the better way to go than communism, who would you want Hasan to debate? It can't be you. If your goal was to make people think far-right fascism was the better way to go than communism, are you asking me like what far-right fascist debater would beat Hasan in a debate? Is that the question? I don't even know how many of those people exist that like debate on that. Well, it depends on what you count as far-right fascism as well. Because I would say people like I would say most of MAGA is echoing a lot of those talking points. far right fascism. I don't know if I would say that. I don't know. I was gonna read this today. Fuck. Oh shit! It's 6:15. Actually, we should probably do this soon. I think Sam Hyde would eat him alive in any debate. I don't know, honestly. Debating is a pretty unique skill, or not unique, but it's like it's like a very specific thing. Like somebody can be really smart, somebody can do videos really well, somebody can speak well, but they might just be really bad at debating. So I don't know, unless I saw Sam debate somebody, I don't know if I would immediately assume that Sam would be really good at debating. Maybe he has and I've just missed it. Like, for instance, if you were to ask me who would win in a debate, Andrew Tate or Hasan, I would assume that Andrew Tate probably would, just because he seems pretty verbally adept. He does his podcast. He's like pretty confrontational. But when Hasan debated Andrew Tate got fucking obliterated. It was embarrassing. I was actually cringing at how horrible Andrew Tate was in that conversation. That was one of the biggest what the fuck moments of my life. I was like, why is Hasan not doing his own red pill arc? He could pick up so many fucking fans. But wouldn't Fuentes easily beat Hasan? I don't know about that either. I'm not sure if Fuentes is like the best debater type. I don't know who the good far-right debaters are. I'm not actually sure. I don't even see people debate that much anymore, so it's hard to say. I don't even know, like, I guess nobody really does. I don't know if anybody really did debate. It just was like a popular thing on the internet for a while, and then people wanted to debate college kids, and that was like it. Andrew Wilson? Andrew Wilson probably would, just because of the style of conversation he does.
Incredibly radicalized in the California prison structure, and then the American government sent them back to El Salvador without telling the El Salvadoran government that they were fucking criminals. And lo and behold, they now had a
Wait, what? Is that true?
Radicalized in the California prison structure, and then the American government sent them back to El Salvador without telling the El Salvadoran government that they were fucking criminals. And
El Salvador just accepted them? That seems so unlikely. But I don't know the factual history here.
Lo and behold, they now had a network where they could engage in international crime back and forth with the United States of America and basically overtook the government. I'm being a little reductive in the way that I'm explaining the story, but that's the secondary problem of just like mass releasing criminals. Not saying that like the 800 people that they deported initially were all like MS-13 style criminals or whatever, but ultimately there's also that additional issue as well when you engage in mass deportations of criminals too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we would disagree on immigration. Then I think a lot of our disagreements would probably be like on our liberal views. Like, are you like a socialist that like prioritizes cooperatives or like state or like command and control?
Oh, I wonder if Hasan even knows what command and control is. It command and control? Isn't C2? That's a military term, right? He means command economy. Maybe they do say command and control. But he's asking him, are you like a Vosh socialist, meaning not really, or are you like a crazy dude? Is Parker really not at all that familiar with Hasan's content? I guess these guys stream a lot, so maybe they don't have time to watch.
Are you like a...
Also, this Dean kid is like the most like fucking stealth shredded dude in the world. Unless he just stopped juicing and he lost it all. I think he's got a better picture. I don't know where it is though. But holy fuck. Oh. Jesus fuck. What the fuck? These are true Aryan genetics at work.
A socialist that like prioritizes cooperatives or like state or like command control?
Well, I have a cooperative.
Command economy and control economy are used interchangeably. Oh, okay. I've never heard it called a control economy before. That might be the case. It's not like I read a ton of literature on that. Yeah.
But on top of that, no, I do believe in state control. I mean, I think we already have state control in general in America as well. It's just that the incentive structure.
Is he going to bring up the Walmart thing? Oh, it's such a... Every single person on this besides Hasan is more educated than Hasan on economics, 1,000,000,000%, by the like
a multiple decade policy in mind.
He's just skinny with lighting. I look like this with zero gym. Yeah, me too, bro. Me too. Same.
We're just kind of operating on quarterly returns. Like we're just trying to maximize corporate profit.
What?
Sure, revolves around subsidies to mega corporations, and instead of the state executing any sort of centralized planning with like a multiple decade policy in mind, we're just kind of operating on quarterly returns. Like we're just trying to maximize corporate profit. So there is still a level of state control. There's no true libertarian enterprise in this country or in any country really. Of course, there has to be state control to a certain degree in order to maintain prices, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that there isn't like no state control, but like, are you arguing that like the predominant factor of the economy would be the state?
Oh, he's trying to have a back and forth with Hasan on economics, and Hasan is literally just like repeating shit that he's heard before. Hasan has no idea what the fuck he's talking about right now. Oh God.
I wouldn't say that there isn't like no state control, but like, are you arguing that like the predominant factor of the economy would be the state control or like the cooperative control? Like, are you like someone who would believe that there should be some cooperatives based on markets, or just eradicate markets entirely?
I like cooperatives, and I think that there is a middle ground with like some market solutions, while still making sure that the state has the public best interest in mind in terms of creating commodities.
Okay. And then here's my question.
Like, in a way, Hasan kind of just described capitalism, but he's not really a capitalist, but he doesn't know anything about economics, because it's less of a policy thing for him and more of like an ideology thing for him, which is funny because he talked about class consciousness so much without knowing anything about, I guess, like, what would you say, like mode of production?
In mind, in terms of creating commodities.
Okay. And then here's my question is, would you then like mandate there either as cooperatives or it's state control? Like if you had the ability to control that?
If I had the ability to control it, would I mandate every single corporate structure to be a cooperative structure?
Or like it would be state controlled, like nationalized?
Yeah. I think that the government should provide, at least in the interim, the government should provide basic necessities like shelter and become a...
He's not answering any question. Oh, actually, maybe I'm not giving Hasan enough credit here. Hasan might be trying to ward off another Ethan moment, because when Ethan started pushing him on this, remember, if you're a true socialist, it's not enough to make it so everybody's a cooperative. And this is kind of what they're hinting at. You have to ban private enterprise. You are not allowed to spend your money and hire workers. That is banned in Hasan's system of government. But that's why Hasan isn't like fully committing to the command economy model. And that's why he keeps saying words like in the interim, like temporarily.
The government should provide a cooperative structure.
Or like it would be state controlled, like nationalized.
Yeah. I think that the government should provide, at least in the interim.
At least in the interim. So he's not being forthcoming. That's smart. At least he's like changing up his tactics a bit. He's not trying to burn this bridge preemptively. He's just hiding his power level hardcore.
The government should provide basic necessities like shelter and become a market competitor, which would be unfair for the market, certainly, with the sole purpose of eventually eradicating certain necessary commodities from the private structure. You can have
eradicating certain necessary commodities from the private structure. Jesus, he would want to decommodify certain things like housing or food or clothes, I guess. I don't know, healthcare, I guess.
Personal property all day, every day, of course, and even luxury goods or whatever kind of accommodations that you desire. But ultimately, it's more so rent seeking that I'm against. It's more so private property that I think is not good and creates is at the heart of all of this inequality. But this is...
He's speaking in so many terms. Private property being not good. This is a huge thing that the Marxist types will catch you on if you're not aware. So he said personal property is good, but not private property. In a Marxist sense, private property is defined as capital. It's stuff that you buy, that you invest money into to have other people come and work at it in order to generate profit. And profit is defined as the difference between the total cost of production and how much you sell that final thing for. So if I bring in a worker, I pay that worker some amount of money, and then they're combined with the capital plus natural resources. I think Marx does that too. Capital plus natural resources, some bullshit, who cares? And then the extra money that I make selling those goods and services to the public, that extra money is profit that I get to keep. The ownership of that capital, that's private property. Your own house or your clothes, that's considered personal property. That's the distinction that he just made there. I like how he's not explaining any of these terms too, because he knows that it's kind of confusing and a little bit nebulous, and so he doesn't have to actually. But I think it sounds like, this is Parker here. It sounds like he's kind of aware of the things Hasan is saying. And Hasan is about to say, but this is all nebulous shit, guys. This is all outward or highly theoretical. Who cares, guys? LOL, like, who cares? It sounds like that's what Hasan's about to do.
I think is not good and creates, is at the heart of all of this inequality. But this is stuff that's never going to happen in my lifetime, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm simply trying to move in the direction, at least in the short term, in the direction of modest reforms that genuinely improve people's lives.
So then my thoughts are...
This is just basic econ, not even Marxism. I could be wrong. You said we learned this in microecon, so you've taken more econ than me, but I would be surprised if in your economics class, I don't think private property is used that way outside of a Marxist definition. I think that if you were a capitalist, you would just call it capital. I don't think you would call it private property. That would be my guess. And I don't think in any paper for economics I've ever seen somebody make a private and personal distinction. But I could be wrong. I haven't seen it before.
In the direction of modest reforms that genuinely improve people's lives.
So then my thoughts are that, like, it sounds like your goals are you want to achieve this in the future, but your thoughts are that you were not even close or even at that point.
Where does the profit come from? How does the good sell for more than the labor put into it? Fuck. There's a thing called the labor theory of value. Is it capital plus labor plus natural resources? Fuck, dude, I don't fucking remember. I read like 40 pages or something of Marx and of Capital, like the first book, and I was like, fuck this. I don't remember though how it's defined. The idea is supposed to be that all goods and services bought and sold in society, it can be computed with labor, right? Or is ultimately reducible to like units of labor. I don't remember, bro. It's been too long. Don't care. And it's cringe. And he's dead. They should ask Hasan how his ideal socialist society would handle a group of citizens who wanted to privately practice capitalism, totally not by using work camps, just educating. Yeah, that's the question Hasan is trying to avoid, because the only answer you can give to that question is we would make it illegal.
Point at all entirely. So pragmatically, you're just going to end up being like a social democrat.
What I advocate for, my most radical perspectives don't come from domestic policy. It's usually my anti-imperialist positions that cause a lot of ire in, especially in the minds of a lot of Americans. As far as domestic policy goes, yeah, I mean, I'm an advocate for nationalized healthcare structure. I'm an advocate for socialized medicine in general, public housing in general. But these are, I would say.
Oh, Hasan has been occupying this position more over the past several months. Like, oh, bro, I just want healthcare and housing. Like, that's it.
Relatively modest reforms that exist in one way, shape, or form in other social democracies in Europe, even though they are running into the same problems with the parasitic nature of capital in terms of, social democracies basically clawing back all of these social safety nets year over year with austerity measures, with the inevitable goal is privatization. And that is part of the reason why I think that, I'm, I guess, a little bit more radical in the long term with what I believe. But yes, in the short term, I advocate mostly for modest social democratic proposals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, So it practically, in terms of domestic policy, sounds like we're like practically on like the same side and whatnot. Obviously, that's
so
why,
annoying, dude.
In terms of all like the policies and the people that we support and stuff. But I feel like a lot of leftists get really focused on like everyone agreeing on like those like sort of, I don't want to call them fringe economically related issues, but they're like, it's really like definitions and stuff. It's not like we don't pragmatically disagree. We get really focused on like, oh, we have that type of disagreement when we're in reality arguing, at least in the time period, the same.
I don't know, Check, you might be right. Your definition of private property is what I learned in class, and it doesn't contradict the definition of capital. These are just Karl Marx definitions versus Adam Smith's definition. Yeah, sure, but no modern economist talks about like those distinctions or anything that Marx defined, or like labor theory of value, because it's not. I don't think any of it is used in modern economic theory. We just don't like the labor theory of value and all that is cringe and lame.
Same for the same thing.
Yeah. The reasons for why I advocate for these things might be a little different than yours, aside from like genuinely improving people's lives.
The reason why I genuinely advocate for these things, something to do with class consciousness. What is Hasan going to say? What would a Marxist say? The capitalist class, the bourgeois, rich people are always parasites on systems. They extract surplus value from labor. They cause bad shit to happen for a capital interest, which can result in things like imperialism, racism, rent-seeking behavior, like worse quality of life for everybody. Something to do with that.
And this is another thing that I'm not like secretive about, but I see a noticeable lack of class consciousness in the American working class in general. There is tremendous class consciousness for capital owners, whether they even recognize it or not, and they don't even need to have class consciousness because the system is structured to benefit their needs regardless, and to continue their position as generating, engaging in capital accumulation. The entire system is designed in that way. But the reasons as to why I think it's important to be able to do this is because I want labor unions and labor militancy to at least exist in this country, so that there's a valid mechanism of pushback against politicians on the Republican side of the spectrum, certainly, but even on the Democratic side as well. Because I think without, like, there's never been a moment throughout American history or history at all where concessions were given to the working class, whether it be the fucking weekends or whether it be, paid leave or any of those things, or the abolition of child labor, without real labor militancy. That has simply never happened. And the same goes for social struggles as well. Same goes for civil rights. Like, militancy is an absolute necessity. And I see the American working class as completely removed.
Does Hasan think he's part of the working class? Yes, but in a Marxist sense, he is part of the working class. In a Marxist sense, I think the classes are divided between, it's the proletariat, who are the laborers, I believe, right? And then the bourgeois are the capital owners. So people that own the productive forces in society that exploit, meaning they extract surplus value from, laborers who are brought on to work the land with the capital that the bourgeois owns. And then there's a third class, I don't think Marx invented this, called the petit bourgeois, who I think are like doctors that own private practices, like worker/capitalists or whatever. But yeah, you could be a laborer that earns $100 million a year in labor, but you would still be part of the proletariat versus a capital owner who makes almost no money because he owns capital. You'd still be a part of the bourgeois, I believe.
Move from that conversation where they just understandably see themselves as powerless.
Wait, what is the purpose of Marx describing the labor theory of value? Like, is he trying to say that should be used to set prices instead of supply and demand? Oh my God, please take everything I say here with a grain of salt, because I'm not super well studied on Marxist economics or whatever. My understanding, my impression was that what Marx was trying to do, because economics, I think, was still pretty new at that time, like capital forces, everything were still pretty new and emerging and everything. I think that what Marx was trying to do was Marx was just trying to create a theory that could explain how the value of stuff, now in a Marxist sense, I believe value and price are not necessarily the same thing, but Marx was just trying to create a theory to explain how we can ascertain the value of everything and how it relates to each other. That's why it's the labor theory of value is an equation of like, how do we figure out what the value of a thing is? How do we compute all the things? I believe that's all Marx was trying to do with his theory. Like, for instance, when Marx says that like the bourgeois exploit the proletariat, that exploitation, I don't believe that exploitation isn't like a bad thing or like a morally loaded word. It's just a description of what's happening, that the capital owner earns money by skimming the surplus value that's created by the labor that's working on his capital, right? And that's an exploitation of labor. But I don't think exploit is necessarily like a negative moral term there. It's just a description of what he's saying is happening, I believe. But okay.
Completely.
Labor theory of value came before Marx, I thought. Did it? Wait, I thought that was Marx's big thing. I thought Marx... I could be wrong on that. Labor theory of value predates Marx, but Marx was interested in a systematized critique of capitalism, using it while advancing it. Oh, does he just go through in the beginning of his book explaining it then, or... Though it originally appeared in the theories of earlier classical economists such as Adam Smith and David Ricardo, and later in Anarcho, the price of a commodity is a reflection of how much labor can save the purchaser. The LTV is central to Marxist theory, which holds the capitalist expropriation of the surplus value produced by the working class is exploitative. Modern mainstream economics rejects the LTV and uses theory of value based on subjective preferences. Oh, okay. Maybe he formalized it more, or worked with it more, or maybe he just centered his writings on it. I guess, I don't know. Like I said, take everything I say here with a grain of salt. I don't know like econ history at all that much.
They remove from that conversation where they just understandably see themselves as powerless in this structure. And I think that breeds resentment, hostility, and it creates, paired up with the economic volatility that many Americans experience, that creates a perfect ground for right-wing reactionary fascist movements to grow. And that's what we're seeing in America.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with that. So I'm not as educated on economics as Parker is. But what I will say is, seemingly that's compatible with like a social democrat model to like advocate for more class consciousness, to like get more social reform, better programs for individuals in like the low middle class, and create economic policy in which centers the average citizen or constituent of a country compared to those who have the most money. But I will say, maybe the more we advocate for class consciousness, the more I educate myself on like this paradigm of conflicts between classes of wealth and how to effectively resolve them. Maybe that just naturally leads you down this pathway of becoming just completely radicalized socialist.
But I don't think I joke and I say like, yeah, I have radical beliefs, but like I mean, what's the saying? It's
I'm sorry, that was a plan once. I was joking.
no. It's by no measure of mental wellness to be well adjusted to a completely insane society. Like, think about it that way, where advocacy for socialized.
I hate that. Like, I hate this so much. Like, I genuinely hate, like, on a moral, visceral sense, like, I hate when people like this, Hasan, talk about, like, oh, it must be so crazy and confusing and horrible to live in a society like this. Like, bro, yeah, because of people like you, you're contributing to it. Like, you are literally part of the problem. You're lying. Like, even in this demonstration here, you're showing us how much you can mask up and lie about how you actually feel about things, and lie about what your true positions are, and then, like, not even fully understand the things you're talking about. Like, you're part of the problem.
A completely insane society. Like, think about it that way, where advocacy for socialized medicine is seen as a bridge too far for many Americans who are so heavily propagandized, no matter how brilliant they fancy themselves to be. The independent thinkers who think that, like, social medicine means, like, oh, we're going to do Venezuela-style rat eating in America or whatever the fuck, right? So, like, I wouldn't necessarily say it's radicalization, more so an evolution by recognizing the understandable contradictions that are baked into capitalism. Because capitalism was an advancement from the previous mode of commodity production, for sure. But most of even what Marx talks about in terms of capitalism is not necessarily attacking capitalism at all, but instead simply describing capitalism with dialectics, like through the assessment of, and it.
Keep in mind that Marx, I'm pretty sure, also felt like capitalism worldwide would collapse in his lifetime. Like,
and, you might think it's a little bit reductive at this point.
Keep in mind that, like, I think Lenin and the Bolsheviks also thought that there would be a worldwide capitalist revolution that would sweep across Europe after they deposed the was it the Tsar or the Tsarist or whatever the fuck in the Russian Empire or whatever, like.
But, like, through an assessment of, like, capital accumulators, the capital owners, the bourgeoisie, and the workers that are wage laborers in general, the proletariat. So that's just, it's more so a description of how things are, and not necessarily, like, moralizing a certain position that, like, workers are always good, or they always do the right things, or anything like that. There's no good bad dynamics there at all, and instead it's just about describing how capital is accumulated.
Dean got hit with a.
I'm having some technical difficulties. Yeah, hit with technical. Got hit with a meteor, dude. Yeah, I guess my thoughts
I don't
on.
understand how glorious Xi Jinping's application TikTok would do this right as I'm talking about abolishing the commodity form.
Oh, he's gone.
Just as a reminder, if you're ever curious why he talks like this.
I think that in the short term, in order to combat against that, you have to advocate for a much lighter form of propaganda. You want America, in the way that I feel about it, and if you want America to get out of the way for places with more revolutionary potential to do what they would normally do, I think that, one thing you have to do is advocate for a lighter form, while simultaneously still doing agitated propaganda that goes beyond, social democratic ideas.
I just wanted to, like, put emphasis on the exact point of the so-called radicalization funnel, where, for example, Hasan and JT catch them while they're young, as they say, and then they start looking into this new idea, etc., and then move forwards through the funnel, get more and more informed, get more and more radicalized. Now, you do your part in the funnel for the cause, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. You're doing, in my modest opinion, a great thing for the cause.
Yeah, I guess where I'm coming from, and I'm coming from someone who used to be a socialist myself for a pretty long time, and actually started my whole content creation, like, creating, like, leftist and socialist content, is that, like, a lot of these issues that exist, I think, can be solved with social democracy. And a lot of people say that there's, like, issues with social democracy. It starts to corrupt. People start to fight and advocate against it. But I don't think that's a critique against social democracy in of itself. I think that just means that you just need to maintain social democracy in the same type of way, like, we maintain our democracy.
Well, man, social democracy hasn't been tried.
Remember, Marxists like Hasan do not believe that social democracy is a possible, stable system. I'm summarizing stuff that I've never read or even directly take everything I'm saying, again, grain of salt. But my understanding of the osmosis information through time and space is Marx or a Marxist would say that there exists a fundamental tension between the capital owner and the laborer that over time, this might be tied into the concept like the rate of profits falling. I think, like, eventually, because of conflict between and because of the different interests between the proletariat and the bourgeois, and the tension that exists there, and the fact that these systems are inherently unstable because of that tension, because of profits falling over time, that eventually these systems have to collapse. And then I believe some kind of communist or socialist society is what would follow afterwards, I think is what I was hypothesized. So whenever Hasan agrees with somebody like, oh yeah, social democracy, that'd be great. People like Hasan might say that, but they don't actually believe that it's possible to stay in a social democracy because there's a conflict of interest between the worker and the owner that can never be solved for, no matter how many times you bandage it up with government policy.
Well, I mean, like we could say that like we don't think that this real certain form has been tried, and I think that that's cool. But like my argument would then be is that we'd have to try it on smaller levels to be able to see whether or not it works on a larger form in order to be able to say that like it's actually effective. I don't think we'd be able to say that we should adopt it on some sort of globalized production model if it is the case that we don't have any type of level of actual probabilistic means of demonstrating how likely it is that it's going to be beneficial for workers or for people. Because we could actually like hurt some of our concerns, like quality of life for workers, if we don't take that into account when we're like applying these sorts of systems. If we don't know what the empirical effect is of these different types of
somebody said Marx assumed not that much growth in the economy, which would have led to huge growth in inequality. Yeah, I think, and the idea of like profits falling over time, I think was a really important thing as well. But I don't think that's ever been demonstrated. Profits seem to be holding pretty steady, and the economy keeps improving, and capital keeps growing, and whatever. But who knows? Maybe at some point.
Theoretical models. Not to say that theoretical models can't be then used or seem to be effective later on.
The moralism of socialist arguments are really hard to debate when their belief is that they are advocating for the right thing, sharing is caring mentality, rather than anything based in reality. Yeah, maybe. They moralize a lot of their arguments, but that's why you have to push them on the opposite moral end, which is what Ethan, in a drunken master way, did to Hasan. He's like, wait, so then what happens if somebody wants to own their own business in a socialist society? Oh, we stick them in a re-education camp.
Of these different types of theoretical models. Not to say that theoretical models can't.
Destiny, the economic calculation problem. Yes, you've been spamming this a lot. The socialist response to the economic calculation problem is literally Walmart. It's their biggest thing, and you have to talk through a whole fucking thing to explain why it's a stupid counterexample, and that's a whole ass thing. That fuck that.
Can't be then used or seem to be effective later on, but it's like we just need evidence to indicate that these particular models are effective before we establish it on such a pragmatic basis worldwide, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting there anytime soon anyway. I'm not saying like tomorrow with a magic wand we are going to dissolve the class structure and live in a moneyless, classless, stateless society. You know?
Yeah, my thoughts even then, like, would even a stateless society be like desirable in the future? Like, even if we hit like full automation. So I don't want to like full on socialist debate you, but like, even if we hit full automation, like, would it even be desirable for us to get rid of that? Like, because we still want a state to like limit people from committing crimes, right?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'm not a communist, so I think that like I can't even imagine what that would look like in general. But the way I explain it is like I'm not opposed to it. You know, I wouldn't say I'm a communist, but I wouldn't say that I'm opposed to a stateless, moneyless society, a borderless society.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, would you be against like the enforcement of certain types of laws?
Wasn't his conversation with Ethan basically need to put people in re-education camps? No. It wasn't basically that. He said that. He said it verbatim that they would be re-educated. Yes.
Like once we meet that society, I feel like in a communist society, there's no government that would enforce laws against like pedophilia. I feel like that would be true, right?
No.
Just as a thought experiment, do you think a socialist society could work if the distribution was done by AI, since they'd like greed, etc.? No. So there's a weird like capitalist bastardization of socialism, which assumes that all of society will be equal. That's what the Republicans used to say that Democrats were doing, and why they called them communists. You want everybody to be equal. There's nothing that's inherent in a socialist or communist, in a socialist society though, that says that everybody has to be paid the same. Like you could theoretically have a system where there are no owners, but some employees own, or there are no owners who don't work, right? Where some employees own more than another employee, or they might have equal ownership, but some employees get paid more. Like that's entirely possible. So socialism doesn't demand equalization throughout all of society. That's just a thing that socialists morally argue for. There's a more roundabout way to get there, though, that in a society where the owners are all of the workers, instead of the ownership being concentrated among a few people, the structure of that economic system would lend itself towards more economic equality between people, just because it would be really hard for individuals to amass a massive amount of wealth, because that would necessarily be split more between all of the owners of the businesses that they all work.
Yes, obviously. That's why I'm saying I'm not a communist, but if society evolved in a way where we're talking so far out there, like we're now talking about theoretically what it would look like, right? We're basically fantasizing about a world that is from where I'm standing impossible to imagine. But I think like the argument, I guess, would be that one, obviously most crime in general, with the exception of like antisocial personality disorder related.
Most crime comes from capitalist conditions. Is he really going to say that? Most crime stems from material conditions not being fulfilled. That's
Crimes
step one.
Are like psychopathy or sociopathy, like things like that. Crimes born out of crimes that might be born out of like a mental
illness. Yeah. But then other than that, it's going to be material conditions.
Problems. And not to say that like people with mental health issues are criminals or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. But with the exception of those, like most crime is done because of financial circumstances, like your material conditions.
Yes. And then he's going to say that capitalism necessitates those material conditions, either because owners will always disproportionately own way more than laborers, or he might do the one where owners need poor people in society because that like enforces the hierarchy. Some argument down there, I think.
create a likelihood for you to go out and do crime. And I think the argument there is that, like, in that structure, it's already, all of your needs are addressed anyway. So the only remaining crime would possibly be, like you said, pedophilia.
Oh, he's got Jesus. Socialism, a great society. The only crime is pedophilia. Okay, never mind. He's saying socialism. He's not doing that.
Which I guess at that stage, medical advancements would have found a solution for that as well. Like, I'm assuming that's what it would look like if I were to envision a communist society. So the concept of crime in and of itself would be entirely destroyed, considering that the overwhelming majority of crime is born out of material conditions.
I mean, you can also just appeal to some libertarian enforcement mechanism, right? Don't forget those collectives, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a libertarian by any means. So, and that's part. Like, I'm a state enjoyer. I often, especially in this past month, I've been talking quite a bit about how we should have 1 million more government employees. I think it's fucking ridiculous that we're trying to cut government employees rather than hire more people for the government. I think that's one of the biggest problems in America is that we don't have enough people doing jobs in general. Any area, like I'll give you the TSA as an example. I flew into Salt Lake City for the day to shoot a podcast with my co-host, who has escaped to Utah. Okay, and it was fucking annoying. I was waiting in line, and I was waiting in line for a fucking hour. Okay, it sucked. And back in the day, I used to be like, man, fuck these guys. Like, these guys suck at their jobs. They're just like sitting around twiddling their thumbs, not doing a good job. Now I'm woke. I realize that it's not because of the individual employee that's like handling this insane amount of demand. It's that
it's because of the capital owner. All problems with employees are always blamed on the capital owner, by the way.
Somewhere along the line, someone decided that we're going to need to do budget cuts and that we're not going to be able to open up the extra lines, right?
Why does Hasan lie to normies, like just stand on your shit? Because it depends. Because you're not thinking of the right goal. His goal is to convert. His goal is propaganda. So of course you're going to lie. Or well, the goal isn't propaganda. The goal is converting people to his belief system. So if he can lie to do that more effectively, he'll do it.
Because we don't want to.
Wait, is his argument that crime would basically end except for mental illness in a socialist society? Yes, that's what he argued earlier.
Want to pay for the salaries of additional TSA employees at the time. Same with luggage handlers, right? Like anywhere where you experience as a consumer, anywhere you experience any sort of issue, our immediate inclination is that it's actually the fault of the individual workers who are fucking lazy, and that's wrong. That's just simply incorrect. It is directly because companies are corner cutting, cost cutting, and the most malleable aspect of commodity production always is going to be labor. So you cost cut by forcing 4 people to do the job of 8. Especially when you can get away with it, especially when conditions have deteriorated and you're fearful that you might lose your job and then lose your fucking house or, not be able to pay rent anymore. The same principle holds for the federal government as well. TSA employees are already technically federal government employees anyway. That's why I use that as an example. Trump cut a bunch of TSA employees as well. I think it was like 300 or something.
My friend who is a commie said that the people were doing fine in the Soviet Union and that the problems in society were exaggerated by capitalists. Is this true? That is absolutely true. That's why when the Soviet Union fell and the Warsaw Pact fell apart, all of those other countries were begging to get back into the Soviet Union. Or wait, is that the exact opposite of what happened? I don't remember.
Really,
I like how it's ironic how MAGA says like these criminals are like taking our jobs, but really it's Donald Trump who's the criminal taking our jobs.
Yeah,
from federal employees. Kind of crazy shit. That's important. I don't mean to like go into a whole.
Haven't you also consistently argued that lower economic conditions are the biggest contributor to crime? I think economic inequality is one of the largest contributors to like property-related crimes. But there are some crimes that I don't know if domestic violence is going to be caused by poverty. It might be exaggerated by it, but even in a perfect society, economically, I'm sure people would still commit crimes for a variety of reasons.
Socialism debate with you, but yeah, thanks for answering all my questions. Like, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Hasan, I got a question.
All right, let's hear it.
So, it's been funny. Okay, so it's about every like 30 to 45 days, I'll check my Twitter DMs and I'll see a new DM from you saying, "Pop out to LA and come on the show." And it's just been so funny because it's been happening for like 6 months. And at this point, I think it's hilarious. I'm no.
I told you next time you're in LA, hit me up. But you were like, "Oh, I'll come."
Damn, I wonder why he hasn't taken advantage of that opportunity. That's really weird.
to LA even just for that alone. I was like,
yeah, well, I'll pop on just for that.
I felt like that was too much pressure. I don't know where you live.
In my opinion, Hasan has partially a good point about the tendency to blame individual employees, but it's just covered in dog shit. I mean, like, it just depends on where you are. I mean, like, I've been on both sides of it, and I've definitely seen it. Like, there are employees that I've dealt with where I was like, you need to not have this job, motherfucker. And then there are other times where it's like, clearly this shift is horrendously understaffed, or like management sucks. Like, it depends. Listen, workplaces have no shortage of shitty workers, whether you're talking management, owners, or employees. It just depends on what you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's like...
It's not, don't worry. I live in LA, so people come out and see me too.
Yeah, I got a $65 flight one way to LA from my local airport.
Hell yeah. What do you guys think about Jubilee, Straight Arrow News? That's my biggest gripe with Jubilee.
Oh my God, I hate their fact checking so much. It's the worst ever. Also, like, I think what they did with Michael Knowles here recently was pretty negligent.
Do you guys know
on their behalf.
Straight Arrow News that presents itself as an impartial news outlet, a fact checker, is actually owned by a fucking billionaire dude. I forget what his name is. Hold on, let me look this up real quick.
That's actually a crazy issue, man. I was literally on stream like bitching. I was like, I don't know if I'm tripping, but these fact checks are trash.
Are horrible.
Like,
I know, right?
I thought I was being dumb. I was like,
so the fact checks are right leaning,
bro. The fact,
yeah,
He just said billionaire. What if the billionaire is George Soros or something? Like, what?
They're always like missing. They're always like missing. They're always missing like incredibly important context. So they almost are purposely misleading. It's odd.
I think those are ad reads almost.
Yeah,
I almost think that they're ad reads.
It's weird.
So if you go on their website, the first thing that comes up on the commentary side is Dr. Frank Luntz. Do you guys know who that is?
Where do I know the name?
Oh yeah, that name sounds familiar.
Unless there's another Frank Luntz. He is a lifelong Republican, but he does really good focus groups. I think he's one of the few good Republicans, hopefully. Principled at least, although I think his favorite politician is McConnell. But his rationale for it is the worst. But is he about to shit on Luntz? He is going to shit on him.
He is a right-wing pollster, very famous right-wing pollster, and wears the ugliest toupee of all time, and also is responsible for, I don't know if you guys watched Vice, Adam McKay's movie Vice about Dick Cheney, but there's an entire segment dedicated to him. He's responsible for things like coming up with new ways of selling the Bush-Cheney administration's like insane proposals, like death tax. Yep. Yeah, that it used to be called estate tax, but now it's called death tax because of the likes of Frank Luntz. But beyond Frank Luntz, the entire thing is owned by. I'm trying to figure out the name of the guy who owns it. Like not on the advisor board. If you look at their advisor board on the website, you'll find out that there's like a bunch of right wing people on there. But like, oh, Joe Ricketts, that's the guy. Joe Ricketts is the CEO and founder of Straight Arrow News. He is also I think he's a TD Ameritrade. Yeah, he founded the company that later became TD Ameritrade, a securities industry leader that empowers self-directed investors with powerful and innovative investment tools and training. TD Ameritrade was acquired by Charles Schwab Corporation in November of 2019. Now, when you look up Joe Ricketts, however, on Wikipedia, you find out a little bit more about little old Joe Ricketts' political perspectives. Aside from the fact that he's obviously a fucking billionaire, so he's,
dude owns the Chicago Cubs. I don't know.
Yeah, he's not going to have great opinions in general, being a billionaire. But then you look up, his anti-Muslim and racist email controversy.
Okay, this is cringe. Okay.
It is time for Mr. President. It is time for us to say, Mr. President, guess what? Russia invaded Ukraine. Can we at least agree on that one? Facts matter. Y'all, this is literally potentially putting us into an international crisis. We may be heading towards the next world war because we have a president that wants to pal around with Putin and wants to do everything to make him feel good, including lying about who invaded who. Mr. Chair, I got a minute left, but I really want to yield to any of my colleagues and ask them if they will say today, very basically, that when it came down to the war in Ukraine, that it was not Ukraine that invaded Russia, it was the other way around. Is there anybody in here that has enough courage to say that Russia invaded Ukraine?
You can have my time.
And this is yet the problem.
Damn. News. Major changes coming to federal government led by Musk's Doge. Most significant move to dismiss federal workers now underway. This is the big one. Agencies must submit plans to significantly reduce staff size by March 13th. Social Security admin under instruction to cut staff in half. GSA says terminations there are imminent. What is the GSA? Government something something? Administration? Oh, General Services Administration. Okay, don't know what this is. Okay. Labor Department eyes gutting EEOC office by 90%. Mass lease cancellations of federal buildings underway, plus 100 IRS leases to be nixed per records. Helps make sense of why Musk and Trump want unified front today with cabinet secretaries. Fuck. Are we going to be able to get through the... I don't want to go watch that cabinet meeting today. Do you think Dan forgot about anything else tonight? Hold on, what is this?
not only do they actively brigade shit, but then they also, he literally, they forced a fucking journalist to go private after writing an article about me because Ethan Klein posted on his Instagram story like a goddamn coward again, okay, crying about a positive article that came out about me on Slate. Ridiculous. I know he worked with Dan Saltman, Sex Pestini's doxing brigadier general.
We're everywhere.
For his nuke. And that's why it was dog shit and it fucking flopped.
Dan scripted the whole video, apparently, with help.
Yeah. Have fun suing Reddit mods, dude. I'm sure that'll make people like you.
From our community.
You got the views, though? Come on, dog. His fucking Keemstar nuke was like 6 million. He literally activated his inactive channel to try and, you know, farm more people to the fucking cause. All he did was remind people that they were subscribed to his old channel. And then subsequently unsubscribe.
You know he was...
cried about me not watching his fucking content.
Spamming that social blade.
I still, after all is said and done, I still wish Ethan well. I want him to get better because I think that there is still a kind individual.
Oh, and then the backwards, like, insults. Like, oh no, I think Ethan's a good guy. He's just like, he has a mental illness about me right now.
I still wish Ethan well. I want him to get better because I think that there is still a kind individual deep down inside. Okay? But I think that this past year has completely bricked his brain. He literally thinks like people...
Hasan keeps using this argument of Ethan is an Insta story, like he's not using Twitter 24/7. Well, I mean, that is kind of true. I feel like posting about people in your Instagram story, if we go by what Hasan's saying, that must make you like pretty fucking obsessed, huh? Like, what does Hasan ever post in his fucking stories? Oh. Oops. Well, that's kind of awkward. Is this him crying about me on hit? Well, at least it's politically oriented, at least. Okay.
People calling him a Zionist is the most anti-Semitic thing he's ever heard. When, you know, he's just defending Israel over and over again.
Really makes you think, huh?